Bore da pawb. I've received a few comments recently from people saying they would like to learn Welsh. And to be clear, I'm not a qualified language teacher and I'm also not first language Welsh. So if you want to, get really good at learning and speaking Welsh, there are definitely better language tutors on YouTube than me. However, I am happy to share some of the basics, some of the things that I do know and that I am confident to talk about with regard to the Welsh language. And I hope some of this is helpful and or inspires you to find other people who are better at explaining the more advanced parts of the language than I am. So first, what are some really basic phrases? Well, perhaps the most basic of all is hello. How do you say hello in Welsh? Well, for anyone who speaks English, this is really straightforward. It's helo. Helo. Now, the little symbol over the O is called a tor bach, literally a small roof, and it basically just makes the vowel longer. So if that tor bach wasn't there, it would sound something like hello, but it becomes hello because the tor bach extends that vowel. You can also see the tor bach in words like phone, which means phone. And that's important because that distinguishes the word phone from fun, which is a stick. So sometimes the tor bach and pronouncing that extended vowel is important. So one more reminder, hello in Welsh is hello. Now, at certain times of day, you might want to specifically say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good morning in Welsh is bore da. Bore da. Now, bore means morning and da means good. So you'll notice, kind of like in Spanish, most adjectives in Welsh come after the noun. Not quite all, but most of them. So bore, morning, da, good. Bore da, good morning. I've said that in a couple of videos, including this one actually. Bore da. In the afternoon, up until probably around 5 p.m-ish. Similar vibe to English, I think, in terms of when this distinction is, but afternoon, 12 till 5-ish, you would say prynhawn da, but you'd be more likely to shorten this to pnawn da, just pronouncing that P at the start, pnawn da. And that means literally good afternoon. Then from probably tea time onwards, you would say good evening, which is noswaith da. Noswaith da. And the word noswaith, evening, has the word nos in it, which means night. Kind of makes sense. I should probably distinguish that there's a difference, at least as far as I know, between Welsh and Spanish here, which is, in Spanish, I think buenas noches can be used as both a greeting and a goodbye, whereas in Welsh, kind of like in English, nos da is, I've certainly only ever heard it used as a kind of, you're going to bed or someone else is going to bed, you're parting for the night, and you want to say good night, see you tomorrow. Nos da. Nos da. What are some other really basic phrases you might want to say to someone? Well, one is, how are you? This would be sut wyt ti, or in the plural or formal, sut ydych chi. So ti and chi are the two pronouns for you that I mentioned in a couple of videos ago, and sit is the question word for how, so it's like como in Spanish, and then wyt and ydych are the two different conjugations of the verb to be, which the infinitive is bod, but none of the conjugations sound like that at all, just like in English and Spanish actually. So talking to one person and not in a very formal context, it would be sut wyt ti. Sut wyt ti, how are you? And then talking to multiple people, or maybe in certain very formal contexts, sut ydych chi? Sut ydych chi? Sut ydych chi heddiw would be, how are you today? So how would you answer this question? Well, if you're doing great, you could say something like, dwi'n da iawn diolch, which means, I'm very well, thank you. Dwi'n is I am, or rydw is the full version, but where I'm from in North Wales, most people just say dwi'n. Dwi'n da iawn. Da, you'll recognise from bore da, is the adjective good. Iawn, in this context, means very, although it can mean a few other things. But here, iawn is an intensifier, it means very, and it comes after the adjective. So noun, adjective, intensifier. Dwi'n da iawn, diolch. And diolch, I should also mention, diolch is thank you. If you want to say thank you very much, you can say diolch yn fawr. Diolch yn fawr. Or even diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much indeed. And also, while we're on that topic, you're welcome is croeso, which is brilliant because it literally just means cross, as in, like, please cross the threshold, come into my home, you're welcome here. When you say thank you, diolch or diolch yn fawr in Welsh, the response is croeso, cross, you're welcome. And that itself was a tangent from what I was talking about, which is how are you, and the response is to how are you. So if I'm feeling great and someone asks me sut wyt ti, I would say, oh, dwi'n da iawn, diolch, a ti, or a chi, if it's plural or formal. You could also just say dwi'n iawn, which is like, yeah, I'm all right, I'm fine. Dwi'n iawn, and this is when I said earlier, iawn can mean multiple things. It's quite a versatile word in Welsh. So it can be an intensifier, like I was talking about earlier, da iawn. But if you just say dwi'n iawn, it means I'm fine, I'm okay. What if you're not feeling very well? Well, if you're feeling sick, you could say dwi'n sal or dwi'n teimlo'n sal. The first one of those would mean just I am sick, and the other would mean I'm feeling sick. Teimlo is to feel, and dwi'n teimlo'n sal is I feel sick or I feel ill. Another reason why you might not be doing great is because you're feeling sad, and that would be trist. However, this is something I'm not going to get super into because it's grammatically a little bit complicated. But just for this example, I will give you this example because it demonstrates nicely how mutation works in Welsh. Treiglo, mutation. It means in certain contexts, or when preceded by certain words, the first letter of a lot of words in Welsh will change. So although the adjective for sad on its own in Welsh is trist, starting with a T, if you say I am sad or I'm feeling sad, it becomes dwi'n teimlo'n drist or dwi'n drist, I'm sad. On the other hand, if you're feeling happy and you specifically want to say that, then that's hapus. Pretty similar to the English, hapus. Dwi'n hapus, dwi'n teimlo'n hapus. And just one more example of how you might answer the question sut wyt ti. If you're feeling excited, you might say dwi'n gyffrous, dwi'n teimlo'n gyffrous. Now, this is another example of a mutation. The adjective excited on its own would be cyffrous with a k, with a c, but in this sentence it becomes dwi'n gyffrous or dwi'n teimlo'n gyffrous. Don't worry too much about mutations. If you like, I could try and make a video just about them. I would certainly have to do some research and jog my memory on all the rules, but for now, don't worry too much about them. Just learn these examples. Now, I mentioned thank you earlier. Unfortunately, the standard word for please in Welsh is a little bit more complicated to say if you're a beginner. It's os gwelwch yn dda, which literally kind of means if it's good for you, if it's pleasing for you. Similar to how please comes from if you please in English, but the whole phrase is os gwelwch yn dda, which might be a complicated set of sounds to make all at once. If you're finding that difficult, you can also just say please. The I with a tor bach makes it extended, so please. And that's probably almost it for this very basic Welsh lesson by a second language Welsh speaker. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll teach you one more phrase, which I will use to end this video, which is goodbye. Goodbye in Welsh is hwyl fawr, which literally means big fun or lots of fun, which I think is beautiful. So, hwyl fawr, or you can also just say hwyl. Hwyl.